Hey guys, ECRG here. Today we're going to be talking about applying for jobs as an internal candidate versus an external candidate. Find out which one has the advantage. Hey guys, ECRG here. Today we're going to be talking about applying for jobs as an internal candidate versus an external candidate and which one is better for you. So obviously, if you're an internal candidate, you obviously work for that company or you're working for them in a contract capacity, a full-time capacity, or whatever it is. You have a way to apply through the company's system for jobs. And as an external candidate, you work separately, you work for a separate company, maybe even a different industry or whatever it might be, and you want to get into that company. So who has the advantage when they apply? And it is undoubtedly, without question, the internal candidate. And that is for a slew of reasons we're going to delve in a second. But the external candidate has one thing going for them that you may not really think about, but they have one thing going for them. And it is this. It is that the external candidates bring a different energy, bring a different vibe. They bring, some fresh blood and some fresh ideas into the company. They aren't jaded by the company culture. They don't have a bunch of friends at the company usually, and they aren't, passive, more passive. They're going to come in, they're going to work their tail off usually for like 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. They want to prove themselves. They're going to bring in fresh ideas, new ideas to the company. Usually you're going to have to pay them a little bit more depending on the experience level, but that's some of the things that they have going for them. And a lot of times hiring managers and recruiters are looking for people like that. They don't always want to hire internal candidates because the internal candidates, they know the culture a lot. They have friends there. They're usually not going to be as, hardworking initially as external candidates, and people may disagree on that, and that's just something that could be true or not be true depending on the person. But usually they're going to bring in new ideas, fresh new ideas to whatever it may be. They're going to have to prove themselves, so they're going to take that into account, and that's pretty much where the advantages will end. The internal candidate has a whole slew of advantages working for them if they are looking to get a job. First of all, they can find out who the hiring manager is very easily, and they can go talk to them in person. They can email them. They can IM them. They can have a phone call with them. So they know who the decision maker for the job. They can go talk to them first off. Huge advantage. You always talk about on this channel networking. Well, they can go network with whoever is going to offer them the job. And more often than not, people like taking the path of least resistance. They know a candidate. They're going to put them in the running for the position or just hand them the position outright. 2, they have a work history of working there. So if the hiring manager wanted to, they can go ask their manager about that candidate. And if they have good things to say, that's going to go a lot further than some random person they don't know having some recommendation letter, or when recruiters do ask people for references. That's going to go a whole lot further because they know someone in the company has recommended them, and they can talk to them and have a good conversation with them. 3, they know that the other person, they knows the company culture, they know the system. They're going to be able to assimilate well into the job. So they don't really have to worry about that. 4, they know that they're not going to usually have to pay the person as much as an external candidate. Usually an external candidate, for whatever reason, I don't know why companies do this, but they always pay the external person a lot more. And it's dumb because the internal person is going to be able to hit the ground running much faster than the external person because they already have the email set up. They've already done trainings, usually. They know how the company works. They know the structure already, usually. They're just more apt to another position in the company because they're familiar with the company already. Where an external person, they're going to have to start from ground zero. They don't know how things work. They have to get trained up on things, et cetera, et cetera. And they have to get paid more. So that makes no sense to me, but that's a topic for another day. Maybe we'll delve into that a little bit deeper. But the internal person has a whole slew of advantages as to why they should get the job over the external person. Literally, the only reason the external person should get a job over you is if the hiring manager is really thinking about wanting some new and fresh blood from outside the company in there, some new ideas. And they think about that for sure. But that's really one of the only reasons why an internal candidate should lose the job over an external candidate. But because particularly the internal candidate just has so many more advantages, especially potentially getting to know them in advance of the position. That is such a huge advantage that the external candidate does not have, as well as the other ones, getting the recommendation letters, not having to be paid as much, just because whenever you move up internally, it's usually not as big of a bump as if you were to move externally for whatever reason. So internal candidate wins hands down. There should be no contest, really, between the two. But the internal candidate has to prove themselves in the interview. A lot of times internal candidates will take it for granted because it's an internal interview. They say they should know all about me and all of my accomplishments because all they had to do was ask. And that's not the case. A lot of times internal candidates will take it for granted. And that's what I was trying to say in the external candidate part. I don't know if that came out as well as I wanted it to, but the external candidate won't take it for granted because they've got a chip on their shoulder. They're not going to take the interview for granted. They're not going to take the first few months for granted because they're in a new place. They know they want to prove themselves. The internal candidate may not, and that's really comes down to the person, but they may not take it as seriously. They may not work as hard as the external candidate. But as far as getting the job goes, they have the clear upper hand in terms of that on many factors. So curious what you guys think. Who has the upper hand in your eyes? The internal candidate or the external candidate? You guys know how I think about it. What do you guys think about it? So comment that down below. As always, like, share, subscribe. Hit that bell next to the subscribe button and email us at eliteclinicalgroup@gmail.com for any inquiries you may have. All right, guys, take care.